And our next share is Dr. Barbara Nesbitt is going to share from the school district of Pickens County, also one of our winners this year. I'm going to be sharing that a little bit with Tim Beekman. Tim, I'm going to have you share screen and take over from here for the two of you guys to share, Dr. Nesbitt and Tim Beekman, who are winners of our Tech Imperative Award. And that also means that they were chosen as super awesome in so many ways. And I can get into that a little bit more at the very end, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Tim. Take it away.
I'm gonna have Barbara share her screen because I'm traveling like normal. So, we're gonna make this more about what we're doing in Pickens and South Carolina and kind of where we're moving the bar, where we see the whole equity piece going. And as you know, we've just did the largest equity project in the nation at Chicago Public with a complete digital curriculum as well. And Barbara's leading the pack in what they're doing at Pickens and what she has created and working with at a state level. So Barbara, we're going to let you start.
Excellent. I'm so excited to be here. First, can you hear me okay?
Sound great.
We can hear you and we can see your screen. So I'm going to go on mute. It's going to be over to you guys.
All right, very good. So we're going to share quite a bit about what we've done to build digital bridges, really to support what we need to do to cross the learning gaps, the bridges that'll close those gaps that have always been there for kids, but have really been greatly enhanced in a very negative way by COVID. So how can we be there when and how students need through digital curriculum? And so, get to the next slide here. So I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Technology Services with the School District of Pickens County. Tim, do you want to say anything about your role?
No, I'm fine. We're good.
Okay. So a little bit about the School District of Pickens County. We're located in the upstate of South Carolina between Atlanta and Charlotte and a suburb community of Greenville, South Carolina. So we have over 2,000 employees, a little over 16,000 students in 24 schools, and a 504 square mile county, which is fairly large geographically for the number of students that we have. And we have a mix of urban, suburban, and rural schools. And one of the core values of the School District of Pickens County is choice. And before COVID started, and COVID in some ways really helped us accelerate our goal toward personalization, in that we wanted to market the students' ability to make choices that would drive their own success. We are an unusual district in that parents have complete control over their children's education here, in that they can pick their own school. So if it's completely open school choice in the county. We also have magnet schools, a phenomenal career and technology center, just state of the art. Over 30 advanced placement courses that you can take regardless of where you are physically located. We have WebEx rooms that we stream advanced placement courses from one school to another with just excellent technology that makes it seem like kids are just right there. Montessori, just a lot of things that we want parents and kids to make choices, to learn over time how to make the choices where they can own their own success, that will drive personalization. And in that kind of theme, we have purposely built our digital ecosystem to allow for this choice, this voice, this personalization of learning. And this started a little over 6 years ago. And we also have ClassLink as our student portal, our entryway, our single sign-on. We use Schoology as a learning management system. PowerSchool is our state-provided student information system, so the whole state has PowerSchool. And our learning object repository is Safari Montage, and we've been using that for over a decade. We use Google primarily for our productivity tools, and then we have several assessment platforms. Two of the most common that we use are Mastery Connect and NWEA Map. And this ecosystem is designed to give choice so that however teachers want to use high quality digital web applications and high quality learning assets to build lessons and units of instruction, we want to make it easy for the teachers to get there. So we have the single sign-on. We do all of the rostering for our teachers. We make it it's very easy with young children with the QR codes to log into ClassLink so that they can get to their applications. And just to show you an example of how we're so okay with this, in our current school year, if you can look at the stat up here in the top left, 93% of our students have logged in this month to ClassLink, but that means some haven't. So that could be students that are all in our virtual school, and so they go directly to the virtual school application. There could be students that are going to dual enrollment. We have quite a few students that really are entirely click students, where they are doing AP courses or dual enrollment. And 73% of our staff have gone into ClassLink. Understand that we've got classified staff in here too who may not go into ClassLink very often. So this is the portal for many of our folks into digital platforms. Some folks go right to Schoology and they bypass ClassLink altogether. And you can see Schoology logins are about 70% of our staff or our students regularly use Schoology. And again, if you are taking dual enrollment courses or you're enrolled in our virtual academy, you would not be using Schoology. And then this is Safari Montage. So you can see here that Safari Montage gets just hundreds of thousands of logins just this school year alone, and plays of individual assets. Almost 9,000 plays from playlists. We have standard aligned plays. We have a lot of uploads. If you look at, just the number of teachers that we have, which is a little over 1,000. So Safari Montage, what's so great about our Learning Object Repository is that teachers can go directly to Safari. They can have students do research inside of Safari, like a safe Google. They can also build purposefully from the digital assets that are in Safari Montage into their learning management system. And I'm saying all of this, and just kind of go back and let you see this. We're okay with teachers and students kind of choosing their entryway in to the digital applications. But what we want to do is give our teachers some choice and voice, not only into how they use the digital applications, but in some ways what those digital tools are. So one of the things that our superintendent was real passionate about, and as we came out of March, April, May of 2020, was creating some playlists for students to have so that their parents could go in and say, wow, I feel like really in Q4 they missed a lot. So we focused first on building playlists for the Q4 so that they would have those over the summer of 2020. And then we added playlists for quarters 1, 2, and 3. And we used these so much, especially when kids were in quarantine, so that our teachers didn't have to worry so much about kids who were out for several weeks, because we had some teacher-created and district-curated playlists. And just so you can see, last year those playlists had almost 45,000 views, and just in the first quarter of this year, they've had 12,000 views. We know that teachers want to use our own content and content that's curated by our district. But what really matters at the district level, and I think should matter to all of you at the district level, and if we have any folks on from the state, is that we are ensuring that teachers are building these digital bridges for students with web applications that are safe and secure. And my colleague at ClassLink mentioned this toward the end of her session about how the safety and security is so important to ClassLink. It should be important to all of us. So we want those web apps to be safe and secure. So as contributing members of IMS Global, and in fact, all of the state of South Carolina have this membership into IMS Global, we have the Trusted Apps Dashboard, where we have applications that are vetted for safety and security. And you can see here, this is just an example, Safari Montage, all green. We look at these web applications before we allow any teacher to use an application where students are creating accounts, or accounts are being created for students, to make sure that those web applications are safe and secure. But we also want the learning objects in our object repository to be smart objects. So what does this mean? First, it means they're shared throughout the learning community. So if we go back to just the concept of those playlists, and in those playlists was several hundred, Inside of those playlists there are actually hundreds of videos and other objects that the teachers put in there. Those are shared throughout the learning community so that we can take advantage of our most excellent Algebra 1 teacher, our most excellent 5th grade science teacher, and we can share those objects throughout the entire learning community in the school district of Pickens County. They're managed so that we are protecting digital rights. So the teachers were paid to create those. They agreed to create those, which means they can't go out and sell it on Teachers Pay Teachers. That those now belong to the school district. So they've given the rights to that content to us because we've paid them to create it, and that is copyrighted in our Safari Montage lore. We know that all of the other things that we have in Safari that we have paid subscriptions to, that we have the digital rights to those. They're easily accessible. They're adaptive so that the teachers can use them to personalize interests, strengths, or challenges. The teachers can create different playlists. They can create groups inside of Schoology and direct kids to inside of groups to different playlists and different learning objects. We want these objects to be rigorous. We want them to be vetted. We want them to be curated. We want to, when we go through the procurement process, that we're not putting junk into our learning object repository. We want it to be high quality and promote higher level thinking. And the last one often gets missed, but it is so important. And that's that these objects are tagged with relevant metadata to align to our state learning standards so that they can be tied back to assessment data, and we're able to see how students are engaged with the content, and is there any kind of correlation between what they're engaged with and then what their learning outcomes are. And these are things that really need to be managed at the state and the district level. So as we're looking at a district, is how can we provide better resources to build digital bridges across the ever-widening gaps in educational equity and access for all of our students, especially gaps that have been made ever wider because of COVID and just all of the circumstances that affected kids differently and impacted them differently over the last year and a half. How can we provide better resources? And when we're looking at, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, equality is given every child that may be the same size stool to get on, but every kid doesn't need that. Some need more. So how can we address issues of equity where you have some students who, right here in our school district of Pickens County, we have some teachers who have just a truly high quality teacher who's using digital content in wise ways and is making that available for parents to see, for their students to see, for kids who are on homebound or medical absences to be able to get to. And then you have other teachers who may have a substitute who doesn't understand the digital technology as well because the teacher is out on maternity leave. How do you address those issues of equity? So how we have done that in Pickens is how I've just explained, through building an intelligent, well-designed digital ecosystem with curated lessons that we provide for our teachers and procured content that is curated as well. But one of the passions that we have as a school district has been to reach out to our state as well. And so in South Carolina, we have pockets of excellence throughout the state. But we're also not a state that's known for high quality outcomes for our students. We just aren't. And so as we're working internally as a district, we really felt this kind of burden to try to drive what was happening in our state so that we could help our state build many of the same things that we built here in the school district of Pickens County. And so I'm happy to share a little bit of the story of how our state has adopted this same philosophy of a digital ecosystem and is providing high quality access to the learning object repository with high quality content, smart learning objects for all of the students in South Carolina, not just those who are fortunate to live here in Pickens County or Greenville County or Charleston or some of those other places where there's pockets of excellence in the state. So we have adopted as a state Safari Montage, which is a cloud-based lore that goes out from the cloud to all of the school districts. And we've called it the South Carolina Instruction Hub, and we're not quite halfway to our journey, but we're, a little bit beyond the first steps. But the South Carolina LoR, the instruction hub, lives in Microsoft Azure Cloud, and it's robust enough to support a system of LoRs across the whole state. And it's flexible enough to integrate with the district systems. So as I was on the committee with a few of my colleagues around the state, we felt it was imperative that the instruction hub could work with multiple learning management systems, because about half the state has already made a huge investment of time, money, and other resources into their learning management system. Some were heavily invested in Teams. We were a district at Schoology. We had others that were Canvas or Google Classroom or Blackboard. And we needed this LoR, this instruction hub that the state was building, to work and be flexible enough to integrate into the choices that districts had already made, to honor the districts really that had been leaders in the state. And we needed that LoR to be complex enough to distribute content statewide through, in Safari Montage, I was very happy, was the winner of this LoR for the instruction hub. And we're able to then build playlists at the state level that also go along with district curated content and content that's being licensed, so that we can marry what the districts are doing and can do with the things that the state can do. And we needed it to be impactful enough to support state standards with exemplar lessons and assessment items. And Dr. Lee DeAndre is the person who's in charge of this project for the Instruction Hub for South Carolina, and she just gets it. She knows that the playlists and the objects need to be tied to our state standards. And I'm very proud, Dan Raleigh has worked with the state and others at the state level to get all of our standards in case format, so they're machine readable GUIDs that are aligned to South Carolina state standards. And then the state is also working with coming up with assessment items that are connected to our state assessments, SC Ready and SC Pass, to have exemplars assessment items, so that the districts then can use these assessment items and exemplar lessons for for all of the students in the state, so they have equal access. So I'm kind of going to hand this over to Tim now to pick up the pieces maybe that I didn't quite cover maybe as well as I should, over to add a little bit more. Tim?
I think you were fantastic, but let me add a couple things that I think are of value. Is that in the statewide to district to school class, it's bi-directional in its communication model. So a teacher could create a playlist and a lesson that could go back to the school, could also go to the another district or a state, vented and viewed. So what we're doing is using the power of teachers, the power of creation, the power and the ability of a socialized platform that's going to allow all types of people to build content, to modify it, to put it to their needs, to distribute it up and down the channel, which is huge because, as we all know, I worked in a school district for 7 years. We put the paper over the glass window, right? And we locked the door to some degree. So the concept in South Carolina is very unique in the concept that everybody will be sharing districts. And I think another point that Barbara pointed out that was really good is the standards. So go to the next slide. I think the standards in this whole model and what's happening is going to pay a key to what LeiLani said earlier, in that it's great to have all this stuff. It's great that it can all kind of integrate together. But how effective is it? And how does it cross platforms? How do you take data analytics, time into an EdFi or an IEEE virtual reality standards that have just come out, which are fantastic? And how do you do that? How do you take them into the IMS standards so that it's trusted apps, so that as a district or as a state that the apps you put into this system are trusted, they're secure, they're going to work, and you don't get in that lovely argument, because I had that argument many times, is, listen, I'm a teacher, I want this app. And you go, if it's not trusted, it's not here. We can't put it on anymore. The world's different. If you look at the amount of ransomwares that happened in K-12. They're up over 1,000% last year and projected to be up over 1,000% this year. Those numbers are staggering. And part of the issue from a vendor standpoint is, how do you take every district with a different security agreement and just get things done so that everybody's taken care of? And I think if you look at the new standards in like in an LMS and in all these different pieces are integrated into a single vested model of distribution and management, they're all covered. It doesn't matter which vendor. If it's in the system and it's in the IMS standard, whether it's the SIS, whether it's the LMS, whether it's an assessment, if they're all meeting that model, they're all going to be secure. Next slide. So one of the things that I would recommend you all look at is this IMS certification model, not just for us, but for every vendor you use, because it gives you the ability to do a lot of the things that you're going to want to do, which is plug and play reality of an ecosystem. And as we develop a digital learning platform, we all remember the PDF for standards, and that we would put them in a little attachment in our Excel spreadsheet to the teacher with a little link to the video or the resource and say, here's the standard. But now, if you look at things that are happening in IMS Global and like South Carolina, case standards are in JSON, which means they can be modified, they can be in real time, they're digital, they can be sent to the home for parents. The whole model's changing. If you look at what ClassLink talked about with one roster, what a difference, what a different ability. And what does that create next? A digital right management system. Okay, guess what? Every district wants different content. Every district wants their own customization for their localization. Every district has a level. Texas is definitely different than Illinois. Illinois is different than South Carolina. South Carolina is different than Georgia. And so how do you manage all those digital rights and everything that's being created, everything that's being distributed? Because guess what? You're going to have vendors that are going to have content you might not want to use or don't think appropriate. How do you isolate that particular content in their model? And so if you look at the idea of what you create with Learn Object Repository, you create all that, which then takes you and says to you, no matter where you are, teacher, district, parent, guess what? I can create playlists, I can create data, I can create lessons that can go in my Schoology, go on my Canvas, and if I change my learning management system in 3 years, you don't care. Your intellectual property is protected, it's managed, it's distributed in a model of what you want. Last but not least, I think there's an important piece here about analytics. We talked about analytics, and I think analytics are about real-time reporting, and I think it's great to have administrative analytics, but what we see as successful analytics is classroom analytics. And a teacher, when they have 30 kids on a device, whether they're in the room or half in the room, have virtual, have no idea where the students are. Are they doing what I asked them to do? Are they moving their lesson along? Where are they progressing in the model? How are they responding? Are they moving as individuals up the ladder of solutions? So one of the things that we really worked for from any provider that we work with in the system is the ability of grabbing how long they're on the object. Is the object being effective across multiple lessons? Are we getting an outcome from the object? Is the assessment related to the object giving performance? And as we go into this vertical intelligent model of instruction, the object has to be smart, as Barbara was saying. If it's not smart, it doesn't give us the ability. And all these different objects need to be smart. You can't just talk about video, images. There's a lot of new interactives coming out, 3D interactives, web streaming that you lined up. All those things, if we look at all these providers here as an example of open educational resources, they all are great, but they don't come in a lot with the standards you need and the data you need on the back end to provide you a model of curation that's going to give you the data as well. So it's one of the things we're really building in our system now. In Chicago, a great example is we went to a digital curriculum for the first time ever there. Every school built their own curriculum. And in the last 4 weeks, we've had 12 million plays, which is a huge number. and over 86% utilization. So the numbers are scary, and it's because teachers want information. And once they realize they can still modify and build it to their own and customize it, and they can get data back on what's going on, that's important. This slide just is kind of a concept to say, look at, you have all these things. You know, they're in your ClassLink dashboard, they're in your district. How do you get all this different data pieces together? How do you build playlists across these that are vetted? How do you know that that assessment piece is working with a particular object in the end? And that's really what we provide, a way to do that. How do we know that we're going across multiple LMSs, across multiple SISs? And guess what? If I build a playlist in Chicago that I want to send to District 59, so be it. It doesn't matter if they're using Schoology, Teams, Microsoft, whatever. That ability is there. So that's kind of where we see the market going, is that the ability, as LeiLani said earlier, of searching, adding, sharing, building playlists, and teachers modifying those is a big deal, because if you're spending 30 hours a week looking for resources, you're not getting anywhere. And so you really got to move the bar. That's it, LeiLani. That's what we've got today. Barbara, thank you. And LeiLani, you want to take over from there?
Yeah, that was awesome. Okay, so your Tech Imperative Award. I mean, this is an imperative, right? Like, people need to get this. We did have a question come in from Terry Webb, and I'm not sure how to find Terry to unmute. So I'm going to ask Doug to see if we can do that. If Doug, can you find Terry? I can't find that person on my list of who's in the event, so I'm leaving it. Okay, so if I don't hear that person unmutes within the next 3 seconds, I'm going to ask the question myself. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to ask for you, Terry. Asking, how seamless is it to share applications with non-traditional teachers, such as coaches, paraprofessionals, and co-teachers? So is this like a thing? Tim, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, and I'll let Barbara answer better because she does that already, but I think when you're rostered or non-rostered and you have items that can be assigned to multiple different co-teachers, which is a problem with most rosters. Quite frankly, that's not a problem with us. Even if they're using, think about this, if they're using 2 SISs, or if the parent's not using an SIS and the district is, that's one of the things that we've always thought we had to do, because it's the only way you can get, education's complicated. You take Georgia, you've got, each student needs to be rostered in their class, but they also need to be rostered in another model outside their class for alternate models. So yes, absolutely, it's seamless both ways. Barbara, you want to add to that?
I would say it's seamless in Safari Montage, but it's not seamless in every application. Some web applications still roster based on just your student information system, and if the teacher is not a teacher of record there, can be problematic. So I would say that is one of the things that's one aspect. Rostering other adults who aren't necessarily the teacher of record, it has been a pain point for us, but not in Safari. But it has been in some other applications. And I do think that the industry needs to look at how you manage digital rights and licensing to make sure the right people are getting what they need, and we're legitimately, not getting access to something we didn't purchase. But at the same time, instructional coaches need to see everything K through 5th grade, whether they teach or not. And then if you have someone who teaches one class and then they're an assistant principal the rest of the day, they need different rights inside of their teacher platform than the other. I think that IMS has built the one roster spec to manage that, but I'm not sure that every textbook publishing company and web app has adopted that yet and has figured that out. That's a good question, Terry.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a super positive point that you guys have addressed that too, because we are hearing that we're opening up the whole market now to think more like of itself like a matrix. It's not like linear anymore. There's so many other dimensions. So we're going to move on to our next panel. But Barbara, I think you're on the panel, so don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Tim, thank you again for being our Tech Imperative Award winner. And you're going to get a little certificate, just so you know.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
thanks, Tim.
So awesome to have you. And thank you, Tim.